Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday said the country would need to combine monetary policies with fiscal and structural policies in order to overcome its worst economic crisis in decades and return to growth. The president was speaking at a meeting of African Central Bank governors in Abuja, the nation's capital. President Buhari said the continent was confronted with slowing growth, weakening demand, rising inflation, restrictions on capital flows, rising debt levels, increases in exchange rate volatility, and depletion of foreign reserves. Nigeria is in the middle of its worst economic crisis in decades as a result of a slump in oil revenues hammering public funds and Naira. Economists have criticized President Buhari and the government for not doing enough to address the crisis.
Those of us who rely on only natural resources such as Nigeria, Angola, South Africa, and Mozambique have been hit the hardest. We have also had to contend with the effect of the Ebola virus disease, which struck some countries in West Africa suddenly. Furthermore, China, a major trade and business partner to a number of African countries, is currently slowing down as it enables its economy, sparking fears of further weakening. Facing these challenges, African central banks have been at their best in keeping African economies afloat through proactive and effective combination of conventional and innovative monetary policies. I urge you to continue to look for original homegrown solutions, not rely on fit-for-all purposes. Prescriptions handed down from abroad. The world is a dynamic place, and in innovation we can survive. In Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria has for many years spearheaded economic stimulus measures through specific intervention programs. I think these measures should be sustained through good times and through difficult times.
The highly divided protocol of attendance being witnessed today at the African Central Bank Governors Symposium from outside Africa and various parts of our continent is a testimony of our collective resolve and commitment to utilize the platform provided by our association to deliberate and propose solutions to the numerous economic challenges facing our continent. That is why this year's theme titled Ongoing Unconventional Monetary Policies, Implications of Monetary Policy and Fiscal Financial Stability in Africa, squarely captures one of the major challenges we are grappling with at the moment in the world and our continent in particular.
Governor of Abia State Okezie Ikpeazu has won the first appeal delivered by the Court of Appeal in Abuja against the ruling which removed him from office. In June this year, a federal high court sitting in Abuja annulled the election of Ikpeazu. According to Justice Okon Abang, who delivered that ruling, Ikpeazu was guilty of tax evasion and was therefore unqualified to have contested the 2015 governorship election in the state. However, on Thursday, a five-man panel led by Justice Helen Ogunwumiju collectively agreed that Justice Abang wrongly assumed jurisdiction to hear the motion.
We are grateful to God. We are grateful to their lordships. It is my hope that this matter has been put to rest so that the governor of Abia State can rule that state in peace. These are members of one party. Let them go back and join hands and bring that state up. Please.
A very good judgment. It settles all the matters, and it clearly says that the allegation that the governor did not pay tax is not true. That the governor, there's evidence that the governor paid taxes, all the correct taxes, and so that is the core of this case. And therefore, even he claimed that the documents he submitted were false. It also has been shown to be false too. And the governor now has been given a clean bill to go ahead and govern the state.
We have listened to the judgment. The Court of Appeal has expressed its opinion, and it's left for us to have a conference with our client and take a decision as to what to do. Happily, this is not the apex court in the land. The Supreme Court is still up there. So if our client decides, we'll be going to the Supreme Court to finally resolve these issues.
President Muhammad Buhari has met with former military ruler General Salami Abubakar, retired, at the presidential villa in Abuja. Details of the meeting were not disclosed to the media yet. However, it is expected that issues concerning the state of the nation were discussed at the meeting.
We are still working, although quietly we are working to make sure that there is peace in the country and all the political parties work amicably, because each one has got a role to play. I hope the current administration, through the assistance of all Nigerians, will give a helping hand to make sure that all these crises that are unnecessary and uncalled for, we overcome them.
A federal high court sitting in Abuja has reaffirmed the sack of Senator Ali Modu Sheriff as the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The Abuja court is different from the one that gave a contradicting verdict on the PDP leadership. The court held that all actions taken by Senator Sheriff are null, void, and of no effect. This latest judgment comes as the People's Democratic Party extended the tenure of the Ahmed McCarthy-led caretaker committee for 1 year. The announcement was made during a National Executive Council meeting at the PDP Secretariat in Port Harcourt. The party also adjourned its national convention, which was earlier scheduled to take place on Wednesday at the Shark Stadium in Port Harcourt. Factional chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Ali Modu Sheriff, has slammed the National Executive Council meeting of the PDP, which extended the tenure of Ahmed McCarthy-led caretaker committee by 1 year. He described the meeting as a huge joke. He said the meeting was in breach of Section 31 of the PDP's constitution, which makes the national chairman the sole authority with a mandate to convene the NEC. Sheriff said INEC has not been put on the mandatory 3 weeks notice. Neither has he as chairman been put on 1 week notice, even if the meeting was an emergency. He also called on members of the PDP to disregard everything that may have taken place in Port Harcourt, as it was done in gross violation of a court order. The Niger Delta Avengers has denied agreeing to enter into a dialogue with the federal government. A statement issued by the self-acclaimed spokesman for the dialogue group, Valentine Ajiri, claimed that the group had agreed to enter into dialogue with the Nigerian government. However, the Avengers, in a statement by their spokesperson, Mudok Agbinibu, said that Agiri's claim was a fabrication. The Niger Delta Avengers is a group which has claimed responsibility for a series of attacks on Nigerian oil facilities in the last few months. Attacks by the group in the Niger Delta region once pushed crude production in Nigeria to 30-year lows. One of the persons declared wanted by the Nigerian army and invited for questioning for alleged links to Boko Haram, Ahmed Bolori, has now been released on bail. The military granted Bolori bail on Thursday, 2 days after he was reported to have turned himself in to the authorities. Meanwhile, Aisha Wakil, another person declared wanted by the army, has also been released. Wakil reported herself at the defense headquarters on Monday morning, less than 24 hours after the Nigerian army put out a statement declaring her wanted. Ahmed Bolori, Aisha Wakil, and a journalist, Ahmed Salkida, were declared wanted by the Nigerian army for their links to the Boko Haram sect. A group of human rights organizations in Nigeria have called for an end to what it describes as the rising spate of human rights abuse during armed conflicts. To discuss this issue, stakeholders held a workshop on the rights of civilians in armed conflicts in Abuja, the nation's capital. The group says the conflicts and abuse suffered by civilians has constituted a source of serious concern to humanity.
The core focus of this workshop is on the rights of civilians in armed conflicts, in the conflict situations and other non-armed conflict violence situations in Nigeria. We're reviewing the laws and the principles that apply to civilians and to their protection in all of these conflicts. As you know, Nigeria has so many pockets of conflict from the northeast to the middle belt to the south-south. And it's time we reviewed what the rights of civilians are in these issues.
Civilians suffer the most in any crisis. That's the truth. If we consider Northeast now, we have the IDPs basically are civilians. Women, children, the elderly, so they're basically civilians. So it's very important.
Now, you must have heard about the term, the internally displaced persons. What it shows is that during conflicts, people are moved against their will from where they ordinarily reside. By the reason of such movement, they are rendered vulnerable because they are no longer in their natural habitat. And so, if you're not in your home, you are expected to be sheltered. In your area, you already have where you sleep, but you are moved out unexpectedly, so you didn't plan for it. So government will have to provide shelter. Government will also have to ensure that they have food to eat. They also need clothing because they cannot engage in the normal business that they are supposed to engage in to be able to raise funds and buy or provide certain necessities of life for themselves.
Nigeria's federal government has approved crude oil production in 4 of the 5 oil wells discovered in Lagos State, the country's commercial city. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission revealed this during a courtesy visit to the Lagos State House in Ikeja. Speaking at the meeting, Lagos State Governor Akinwumi Ambode said the commencement of oil production in Lagos State would enhance the economy of not just the state but also the nation in general. Earlier this year, Lagos became an oil-producing state and the only one outside the Niger Delta Basin after over 25 years of oil exploration in the city. The Nigerian government says it would release 9.8 billion naira for polio vaccines across the country. The 9.8 billion naira to be released is exclusive of the 6.5 billion naira approved by the Ministry of Finance when the polio crisis started this year. Minister of Health Isaac Adewale, who disclosed this at a press briefing in Abuja, said the money would be used to execute the polio response plan developed by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and its partners. He also revealed plans to immunize over 56 million children by November 2016. Nigeria's dream of being certified polio-free by 2017 was cut short following the discovery of 2 new cases in the northeast part of the country. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it has rearrested Achiku Udenwa, who is the former governor of Imo State, for failing to report to the agency after he was granted administrative bail. The anti-graft agency in a statement said the former governor was being held in connection with an alleged campaign fund scandal. According to the EFCC, Udenwa, as the state coordinator for the presidential campaign organization in Imo State, collected the sum of 350 million naira from Nenadi Usman, a former senator representing Kaduna South and director of finance for the PDP presidential campaign organization. We'll take a quick break. When we'll come back, we'll look at how the Naira is doing on the interbank market. Don't go away.
Corruption not in my country. That was a very good business. Yeah. The furniture you brought was very perfect.
But that's how we roll.
Because then let me do you receipts.
Yeah. How much was it again?
1 million naira.
Okay, write 2.5.
Mbano. The deal was for 1 million naira now.
Okay, write 3 million. I'll give you 500.
Oh no! I just do business like that now. Yeah.
Hey, that can give me back my check. Let me go and look for someone that understand business.
Take.
Your loss.
It is only for incorruptible customers. What are you talking?
I get that.
What kind of this?
You will just die.
No.
You will die.
That is the door. Now get out from here.
Rubbish.
Look, my people. Make not really add money for original invoice price. That's not corruption. Say no. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back to Business Stories. Now, the Naira on Thursday weakened further against the United States dollar on the official market. The currency traded at an all-time low of 365 Naira to the dollar in a single interbank market trade of $1 million. This will be the first time the Naira will perform so poorly after the Central Bank of Nigeria last month lifted its peg on the currency in June to allow it to trade freely on the interbank market. Investors have welcomed the removal of currency controls, but many are still steering clear until the Nigerian economy shows signs of a concrete recovery. Manufacturers in Nigeria have urged the federal government to keep the interest rate on the external borrowing at single digits to address the present economic crunch in the country. Now, this was part of the outcome of the business meeting of the 7th edition of the Apapa chapter of the manufacturers body in Lagos State, Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is facing its worst economic crisis in decades, and this is obviously taking its toll on manufacturing in the country. Our correspondent, Abiola Ismail, has more.
This is one of the series of meetings manufacturers in Nigeria have been holding since the economy took a nosedive. The Lagos State Commissioner for Environment, Babatunde Adijare, says the economic recession is a phase which will soon be over. He implored manufacturers to join in the infrastructural development being put in place by the government.
To ensure survival, all of us must roll up our sleeves and be ready to grind our way out of the present situation. To express it more succinctly, we must think out of the box and look for a more creative, cost-effective, and sustainable way of doing our businesses.
But the chairman of the manufacturing sector, Apapa branch, Babatunde Odunayo, wants the government to revisit the 1986 sovereign trust policy, where more borrowing helps the country to revive the economy.
They can only get better if they accept some foreign money injection and they adopt fiscal discipline in the economy. Regrettably, Nigeria now has to require that kind of support. Regrettably, because we needed have found ourselves in this position. We now have to need such kind of support so soon after former President Obasanjo and Finance Minister Okonjo-Iweala made conclusive deals with the London and Paris clubs and took Nigeria out of the bad debtor nation list.
The group says it is time the Nigerian government changed its economic policies and draw out new survival strategies. Among those calling for a change in the government's policies, renowned economist Henry Boyo and former chairman Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Sam Onwabuwa. They say they want the government to have a rethink on its plan to borrow about 110 billion naira to ingest into the economy.
As manufacturers, we're not fighting a battle against exchange rate and interest rate, but we're actually talking about keeping inflation under lock and key. Sensible, successful economies everywhere, the rate of inflation is usually kept at below 2-3%. I have never seen a successful economy with substantial growth when inflation is approaching 20%.
How do you hedge? For example, currency, exchange. So rather than buy dollar or borrow dollar, you borrow Naira, because Naira is fixed, but dollar is, and all other foreign exchanges, foreign currencies are going. So borrowing externally may be difficult. So borrow dollar. Then but you can index your selling against dollar. So if I'm selling a product and it's $1, that's what will make me return the money I borrowed. I index is $1. The moment the dollar changes, my price changes, so that I'm indexed in the foreign exchange. If I borrowed in that exchange, I'm going to reorder in that exchange.
It's no longer news that the Nigerian government is looking both in and out the country to borrow money to fund the 2016 budget. With the clock ticking and recession looming, manufacturers in Nigeria can only hope the government's future policies are beneficial to them and the economy in general. Abiola Ismail, TV360 Lagos.
Still on business, the Nigerian government has raised 110 billion naira worth of bonds maturing in 2021, 2026 and 2036, according to the Debt Management Office. The DMO's auction, it sold 40 billion naira of 2021 paper at $14.50 per barrel. The DMO issues sovereign bonds monthly to support the local bond market, create a benchmark for corporate issuance, and fund its budget deficits. The federal government said it would borrow about 900 billion naira locally to finance part of the 2.2 trillion naira deficits in its 2016 budget. The Central Bank of Nigeria has again faulted speculations that some banks in the country may be going under because they are distressed, stating that all existing banks in the country are in safe financial conditions. The Apex Bank, in a statement issued by the Acting Director of Corporate Communications Department, Isaac Okorafor, stated that neither Sky Bank, whose management was removed last month, nor any other bank in the country was in distress. It said, contrary to speculations going the rounds, the funds of depositors in all the banks remained safe and there was no need for panic withdrawal by any bank customer. Oil prices rose on Thursday as traders continue to talk up the potential for an output cut agreement at a meeting of OPEC and non-OPEC producers next month. Brent crude oil futures were trading at $49.93 per barrel, while U.S. crude futures were trading at $47.10 per barrel. Prices remain more than 20% higher than a 6-week low hit earlier in August. This was supported by the potential freeze or even cut in output following next month's meeting in Algeria between the organization of the petroleum exporting countries OPEC and other major producers like Russia. South Sudan's former vice president and opposition leader Riek Machar has left the country. His spokesman on Thursday said he fled to escape government forces pursuing him since he withdrew from the capital during fierce fighting over a month ago. Machar's spokesman said he had gone to a neighboring state but would not reveal his exact location. Machar led a 2-year rebellion against forces loyal to his longtime rival Riek Machar before the two forces reached a peace deal in August 2015. Under the deal, he returned to Juba in April to resume his role as vice president. But fighting flared up for several days last month, leading Machar to withdraw with his forces from Juba around mid-July. Zambia's main opposition party has filed a court petition against President Edgar Lungu's re-election. The United Party for National Development says some electoral officials conspired with the ruling party to rig the vote, handing victory to Lungu over rival and main opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema. The election results released on Monday means Hichilema has now lost 5 presidential elections in Zambia. Still on the Rio Olympic Games, Nigeria's Olympic team, the Dream Team 6, have missed out of a chance to secure the country's second Olympic football gold medal. The team was defeated 2-0 by world champions Germany in the semi-final. Nigeria will now face Honduras in the bronze medal match. The game takes place on Saturday 5 p.m. Nigerian time. Meanwhile, Germany will now face Brazil in the gold medal game. The game also takes place on Saturday 9 p.m. Nigerian time. Brazilian authorities have stopped U.S. swimmers Gunnar Bent and Jack Conger from boarding a flight at Rio, Brazil. The Olympic Committee has confirmed. The two men were taken off a plane bound for the U.S. for questioning late on Wednesday and released hours later. Police have queried their accounts of a robbery they reported in Rio on Sunday. The swimmers said they had been robbed at gunpoint in a taxi in Rio, Brazil in the early hours of that day. Well, that's all we have on News Now. We thank you very much for joining us. I am Thelma Okoro.